everybody. Caleb Arthur here, owner and CEO of Sun Solar. Thanks for joining me today for another awesome episode of our podcast. Today I have with me Alan Kindall. Alan Kindall is here. Alan, you've been with Sun Solar for many, many years, and you've had many positions at Sun Solar, and we've been really appreciative of you over the years and really happy that you're with us today. You've been with us now, and you're currently in a position where you're in charge of all of our different financial options, our finance options at Sun Solar, and you really help all of our residential and our commercial sales team with the financial options for our customers. And today we're going to go over some of those options. But, with Alan being at the company all these years, want to start off with, just how blessed we've been to have Alan. But Alan, what do you think of what do you think of your position at Sun Solar, and just can tell us a little bit about yourself just about yourself and what you do at Sun Solar.
Yeah, thanks, Caleb. I'm blessed to be here, and it's this is really fun to me. I've been in financing the last couple of decades, and I love the puzzles that financing brings in. And I love solar. I grew up in the glass and glazing business here in town, and actually sold glass for solar panels back in the 80s. And so it was really kind of nice to come back into this industry and see where it had progressed to. And I'd been in financing in the meantime, so this was just a natural fit, and it's been great. I love working with our consultants. They're very knowledgeable on what they do when they talk to you in the home, and they're knowledgeable because of the training systems we put in place that are so much different than the two guys in a truck that all they know is how to stick a solar panel on a roof. They don't, and then they can't guarantee it. It's very satisfying to me, even though in finance, to see us having a full service department and fixing other people's problems that they go out and create, and then being able to offer those solutions to people. So the fix to the puzzle, that's the part I love.
Yeah. And how did you even come to know Sun Solar originally?
Oh, that's a secret. I can't tell you that. I had talked to a friend of mine about solar, and I researched the companies because I wanted solar for my house. And knowing what I knew from the past, and I looked at several different companies, and I really only looked at one that I thought could cover the warranty. Everybody can say they have a warranty, but Sun Solar had the history and the backing, and I felt they were strong enough and had the product knowledge. And I had solar installed on my house. And then about a year after that, it turned out Caleb and I were talking about financing and what do we do in the solar industry, and it was coming into its own, and we just decided we needed to work together.
Yep. History ever since. So since you've come on board, we've really taken our residential and our commercial smart home plan to the next level. And our smart home plan is where customers don't have to own their own solar panels. They can allow us and our investors to own the solar, and then they get like a levelized payment. And so that way they don't have to take the extra risk and everything. So can you expand any further on this smart home plan that we're able to offer?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in today's world that can't take advantage of the tax credits that are available through the government. So we do have partnerships with banks, with individuals that can use those tax credits. So what the smart home plan is, it takes those people that we do our financing and use those people that help us with the tax credits, and it provides a lower operation cost for our customers. As you said, the one low payment, guaranteed for the full term. We're doing 25 years right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
So when you look at that for a full warranty, 25 years, and you're looking at a fixed cost of something that you've got a contract with the utility company right now. So
forever, right?
Yeah, forever.
It's always going up.
And they don't guarantee you the price like we do.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing about the smart home plan. You know your costs no matter what's going to happen, and you know it's guaranteed by a company that can back it up.
Yeah, and kind of the traditional has been in the solar industry for years has been you have your cash payment, you have your traditional loan, and then you have this smart home plan. And with the cash or a loan, it's up to the homeowner to utilize this large 30% federal tax credit that comes.
That's right.
But with the smart home plan, we can use that benefit for them and then pass along the savings of the tax credit to them. But with the loan and the cash, they have to utilize the tax credit. But what's the difference between like the loan and the cash? Why would a homeowner, if they don't pick the smart home plan, which a lot of, it seems like it's kind of trending back to the smart home plan.
It is.
But if somebody's going to pick a loan or cash, what are those? What's the difference between kind of those for a homeowner or a business owner?
Well, there are all sorts of people that know their financial wherewithal, that know their goals, what they want to do. They'll look at paying all cash for a system, which about 25% of our people do. And they'll just look at, okay, that's saving me this much in utility every month, and I know what my return on investment is now. And that's a lot better than any savings account you can put your money in.
Yeah.
And the people that get a loan are people that, whether they're W-2 employees, but they're having taxes withheld, they pay taxes every year. If you do that, you can usually recoup some of the tax credit, which makes it lower. And then also you get into places like Illinois where we're at, where they benefit the customers even more with certain things per state that they'll do. But a lot of times you look at people that pay things off quickly, or that all they want to do is offset their utilities. So in my case, I just wanted to offset my utilities. I knew the long-term gain, my utility bill is going to keep going up, but my solar payment was going to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I looked at it like, I bought a privacy fence for the house. We put in a nice deck, and those were assets I put on my house, just like the solar system. But those assets don't pay for themselves.
Yeah.
So this was the first thing I had really bought as an asset that makes its own payment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, out of the smart home plan, the loan or the cash, it sounds like from the percentage you talked about with cash and smart home plan starting to pick up more, maybe loan is the most things that the loan is the most of what people pick.
The loan is the majority of it, and there are a variety of options with the loan. Some people put a lot of money down. Some people don't want to put any money down. We have 0 down payment loans.
Gotcha.
And just like in home loans, if you go into a home loan, there's different rates available, and you have different closing costs and things. It's the same with solar.
Gotcha.
That it's just a matter of what do you want to look at, what's your end payment going to be, and it makes sense about 90% of the time, unless you've got trees hanging over your house that you don't want to take out. Which I didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got lucky.
Yeah, I did.
How long does it take for the sign up process of the loan to get signed up on the loan when the energy consultant is meeting with you?
Most of the lenders that we work with are very sophisticated lenders. They're huge companies, and they have online applications that you'll know within a few seconds.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it takes a review of who's actually on the title of the house.
Gotcha.
Something like that they'll come back, and it may be the next day before we can get them that proof, but they're ready to make the decision as soon as they get that.
If I'm looking at going solar and I'm looking at a solar loan, do I get hard credit checked 4 or 5 times if I'm looking at signing up to know if I qualify?
That's a really good point. And just like when you used to go shop for a car, you could have 8 or 10 different banks hitting your credit. And 10 years ago, solar did that. But now these lenders all do a soft pull, including us as a company. We've invested in the software to do that ourselves so that we can kind of help guide the customer to what lender the
Great.
smart plan works the best. And it's a soft pull, does not hit your credit at all. So it just gives us a kind of a measuring tool to see where do you fit in and what are your goals. Do you want to pay it off quick? Do you want to pay it off slow? And that's where our energy consultants and their training really come into play, that in a way that helps the customer instead of just saying, here, sign here and let's get it on.
Yeah. Why does financing solar make sense versus paying cash or just staying with your skyrocketing utility bills?
Well, when you look at the long-term cost, and and how it's going to pay off, that equal to the payment or less. Or we have a lot of people that may pay more per month because their electric bills have been rising so fast. They just want to cover their bases. Kind of like if you could prepay, if you could have bought all your gas at $2 a gallon, 3 years ago, why wouldn't you have done that?
Mm-hmm.
You would if you can foresee that.
It's way more than $2 a gallon now.
Yeah, no kidding. But that's really the way we look at it. And the long-term financing, these companies, most all of them will let a new buyer, if you decide to sell your home, they will be able to transition in with the new buyer, get pre-approved. We do the same thing with our smart home plan. So we want to make it as easy as possible. If you decide to sell your home, you may not have plans to right now, but we've got those avenues that if you want to do it, it's there for you, and it makes it an easy process.
Awesome. What kind of credit is required to be able to sign up for the Sun Solar Smart Home Plan or one of the loans that Sun Solar offers?
The credit requirements, and I'm going to talk about score first, I guess. Usually around 620 or higher is going to get a solar loan. Some of them go down even lower than that. Just as in a lot of other industry, leasing is a little bit more, has a little bit more requirements. So that's about a 650 or up. But in our case, we pull all 3 credit bureaus with that soft pull. So if just one of those bureaus goes over 650, the smart home plan, we can get you qualified for it.
Awesome.
And you look at debt to income ratios, things like that a lot of lenders, when you go in to look at a home loan, you've got to put that payment in your debt ratio. We don't have to do that in solar. And the reason we don't have to do it is because you're already paying that electric bill. So we're offsetting a bill with that, which is really great when you talk debt to income ratios with people. They understand that, hey, now I'm going to have a fixed cost. And so it works out. It works out great. And that's why most of the people finance with a loan or do the smart plan. But still, a lot of people that have the cash, they just want to own their system right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
Yep, absolutely.
Where do you see the biggest opportunity for the financing industry as a whole? It could be with the leasing, with the loans, residential, commercial. Just kind of where do you see the future of financing going?
For solar financing itself, we're seeing it become so much more sophisticated. And unlike where when you do a home loan, there's Freddie and Fannie and all these companies that securitize it, the federal corporations. We haven't had that for solar, but now we're seeing big banks get involved. And we're seeing long-term fixed rates. And I think there is nowhere but a higher consistency. That's what's coming. So there's more consistency.
Good for the homeowners, good for business owners.
Excellent, and especially business owners. And when you look at the tax benefits, it's great. It's great for the consumer, for the homeowner like me. I used up my tax credit. I couldn't use it all the first year, but it rolls over for several years. Yeah. The commercial users get 20 years to use up that tax credit, plus they can depreciate the system.
That's crazy.
I know. We had systems paying off in as little as 3 years.
And if you can get that, the tax credit depreciation, then some in the rural areas can get the USDA REAP grant.
Oh, my
gosh.
Like
the guy the other day got that, and then he got the Liberty utility rebate, and he had like a 1-2 month payback time, and I was like, I'm in the wrong business.
I know. I know. One of the best stories that I remember in meeting on the smart home plan and talking to people about tax credits, and we met with probably the top tax credit attorney in the state here in Springfield, and going over the benefits and what we're trying to do. And not only did he help us design the system, but he put it on 3 of his apartment buildings.
He started buying it.
He said, "Wait, there is no reason I can't do this. Yeah. This is great." So
he went from buying historical tax credits to buying solar, didn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely. So in commercial world, it's even better.
Yeah.
So the financing, the fixed cost, knowing that utilities are going up.
If a customer's picking a solar loan, they've kind of got two options on a loan, Alan, and it's high interest, low dealer fee,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or low interest, high dealer fee.
Right.
And kind of the history of the solar industry has been mostly from an energy consultant sales rep perspective is let's not talk about dealer fees because that scares customers. I think most of the people in the industry, most of my customers, most of everybody that knows me is I'm a pretty transparent guy. It seemed like up until the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, dealer fees, these fees that the industry charges to buy down the interest rate have been pretty low because historical interest rates have been pretty low.
Right.
But as interest rates increase to keep the interest rates low, the fees go up, just like with any type of mortgage, car rates, anything you're going to see. And those are just fees that are just tacked on to your cost and you go on. But I think consumers, and even in the solar industry or really any industry, are starting to educate themselves on these facts. And I'm starting to now have customers ask about dealer fees. I don't know if you've
I have.
you've started to catch on and hear about it, but
Yeah,
I am, and it's like, don't shy away from it. Like, lean into it. If they ask about dealer fees,
Mm-hmm.
say we've got low dealer fee options and high dealer fee options, and the difference is depending on what you want your interest rate to be. I mean, at the end of the day, loan companies have to make money to be in business, just like we have to make money to be in business, right? And it's you're either going to pick their product or you're not. And if you don't want to pay a dealer fee, you pick a high interest rate. If you don't want a high interest rate and you don't want a high dealer fee, what do?
Pay cash.
Exactly. Right? And if you pay cash, what does that do? That ties up your cash
Or the smart home plan.
or the smart home plan, right? And if you pay cash, then you tie up all your money, right? And I think from looking at it from a perspective, not only am I reinvesting my cash back into Sun Solar on a monthly basis, I also do real estate investing too. And I don't go pay cash for my real estate. It doesn't make sense, right? I try to leverage debt to buy real estate. Now, obviously, I had to come up with cash for down payments, but I think about that all the time about if I had cash, would I buy a solar system, or would I make a down payment or not even make a down payment, and would I finance my solar system? And when you think about how loan companies are charging the dealer fee and the interest rates they give, and it's virtually like an unsecured type loan, and for the rates they're charging, it's still a pretty good deal for what they offer.
It is.
Versus what like a traditional bank would offer for real estate and the different stuff I do.
If you compare the payments, if you're just going to make payments on it and pay it off, then those deals still make tremendous sense.
Yeah. And I don't know, if you're not into investing or buying real estate or doing other stuff, you might not know, because it might just be like, well, I've got a mortgage on my house, I've got a loan on my car. Maybe I got a mortgage on my house when it was 3% and I didn't have to pay all these fees, but you paid like an origination fee, you paid all the document fees, you paid all these other fees,
even buy down fees,
buy down
the rate
fees.
down lower.
If you got a certain type of loan, you might be paying that. What is that? What is that special P&I interest or what?
Oh, the mortgage insurance.
The mortgage insurance. I mean,
and you can pay that up front or monthly.
Yeah, monthly. Yeah. So I mean, there might be all types of fees eating your lunch on your different things, but I think it's important that with all the bad actors in solar, like the Pink Energies and people that have went bankrupt, and I've been saying this for the last, interest rates started going up last summer, but we really seen the loan companies start passing those on to us in September, October last year. And that's really when I said, hey, this is where solar companies are going to start feeling the pain, because when interest rates and dealer fees go up, the monthly payment to the customer is going to go up. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Same thing happened when home mortgages RVs, cars, everything. The monthly payments go up when interest rates and the fees go up from these finance companies. I said, it's bad, but I bet half, if not more, of our competitors will go out of business. They'll go bankrupt. And we need to hedge against that by really teaching our consumers and our energy consultants, and just the industry overall, on how to like kind of build your business for harder times. And I think so many solar companies were just telling customers what they wanted to hear versus truly educating them on the benefits of solar long term. It was, what can your payment be day one? What can your savings be day one? And let's not look at the long term benefits of solar and the long term savings of solar. And I think that caught a lot of people off guard whenever the interest rates went up. And I mean, yeah, our sales dipped for a little bit, but that was just a temporary thing of just our energy consultants and the consumers and everybody just kind of reconfiguring for a few months of what the future of the industry was going to be. But, I literally just got, more information over the weekend about, another few solar companies going out of business. And it stinks that they're going out of business because those are all customers that got these workmanship warranties through these solar companies that they've spent, 40, 50, $80,000, on these larger commercial systems that are no longer going to have these workmanship warranties. Thankfully, they still have manufacturer warranties with the panels and inverters. But the workmanship warranties go through the solar companies. And so, I'm glad that we have a good, solid foundation in our company to, go through these ups and downs in the industry over the last 11 years. But I think that when we make these kinds of content, we need to make content for our customers. We need to make content for our internal staff. And then we need to make content for the industry. Because being in this thing 11 years and you being here for the last, what have you been here, 6-7 years now?
6, yeah.
Yeah. We've been through a lot and we've seen a lot.
Yeah, we have.
And this isn't an industry like the utilities or like the car manufacturing world where they've been doing it for 50, 60 years. And it's standardized and the processes are standardized. Like, we're in the freaking Wild West, Alan.
We still are. You're right.
We're in the Wild West. We're on the cutting edge. We're cutting our teeth. Legislation can change things overnight. Policies can change things overnight. The Fed's trying to break the will of the banks, of the people, of the economy, can change things overnight. And, you talk about we offer a product that can pay for itself, and that's so true. But we also are offering a great, amazing product that actually people don't even have to survive. You think about like you have to have an HVAC system if yours goes out and you're going to call and go, I don't have heat or cold. Get over here and fix it. Whatever the cost is, I have to have it. But people don't call us and go, I have to have my solar system on my roof or I don't survive tomorrow, right? And so
they call the month after when they get their electric
bill. I know. They can't survive their payment, right? Or they're going to lose their house because now their utility bill payment's higher than their mortgage payment, which is insane. It was never designed that way years ago. I think the utilities have completely taken it to the next level where, I remember my grandma telling me when they got electricity, my grandma was in high school when they got electricity out in the rural area. Their co-op brought electricity, and the co-op served a great purpose by banding together in these rural areas and being member owned, which they're still, quote unquote member owned, but they're corporate controlled by the higher ups and not member owned anymore. Because I'm a member and I can't even run for the board. They have bylaws that forbid me from running and being on the board, even though I know more about energy than probably all the board members combined. And so she got electricity when she was in high school, and they paid $20, $30 a month. And you take inflation into consideration, they were paying less than $100 a month for their energy. Now her same house that is in the same location, the same size, all these years later, is paying a $400 to $500 a month utility bill. Mm-hmm. And this is rural farming community on a cattle farm. Utility companies are out of control, from co-ops to municipal owned to investor owned utilities, and they're going to continually be out of control.
They're out of control because they have all the control.
They do. They're monopoly. They have no competition. Solar is the only competition. Wind turbines can't compete on a small basis. You can't put a wind turbine on your house. Nobody's really going to allow it unless you're out in the middle of rural nowhere and you've got good wind, which is like such a small percentage, right? You don't really see that going on. I've seen like one wind turbine in like all of Missouri, and it's the commercial property out on Highway 60 over by Rogersville, right? That guy says it works, but he had to pay like 100 grand or something for it. Solar is like the one freedom of choice you get to get away from the inflation of utility costs. And I never thought 11 years ago when I got into this that people would be deciding to either be putting food on their table or paying their utility bill, and that would be their like two options. But it's getting to the point where people's utility bills are becoming higher than their mortgage payments. And I just think that's like highway robbery.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop. And
No,
because they've it's the golden rule. It's the he who has the gold makes the rules.
yep,
And they control the electricity. So
yep.
as we've seen in several areas around the Midwest, all over the country, if they can't legally jack up certain fees for the solar companies, they are levying extra fees for the customer because they have solar.
Yep.
And it's actually better for the power companies.
Yeah.
We help them take stress off of their grids, but
It's crazy.
yeah.
Doesn't make sense. And if they can't win against the solar industry or solar customers, they just start increasing everybody's connection fees.
Yeah.
Try to make make everybody's rates higher. And yeah, I mean it's a very wild thing, kind of seeing behind the curtains of energy. And the only thing I can tell you is growing up in kind of that middle class American family, and then being in law enforcement for 5 years and kind of seeing how the chips are stacked against the average middle class American. You know, I started in law enforcement right when that housing crash happened in 2000, the 2007, 2008 housing crash. And I remember my father-in-law telling me about how much of his retirement was lost, how many more years he's got to work to recoup his 401k, his retirement, all that stuff. I just remember thinking, you can't trust anything that's set up by anybody unless you have total control over all of it, right? And I remember that was the same time. It was right after that. A couple years after that, it was the same time we were building my energy efficient home, and we were putting solar on it. And I was still in law enforcement. And I remember I wanted to live off grid. We were building this house outside of Houston, Missouri. We were building on 10 acres. I was putting solar on my house. We were getting the battery storage set up, and I was going to make this thing where I could be independent from the government, even though I was working for the government in law enforcement. And I just didn't trust anybody. And I specifically didn't trust my utility company that they were going to be able to provide me power anytime I needed it. And I remember when we flipped the switch, the meter stopped spinning, and I no longer was tied to that umbilical cord. And that sense of feeling free from everybody was just overwhelming to me at 23 years old. And it was just, I don't know, it was just almost an outer body experience for me, being able to grow my own food, produce my own power, being that young. And I was like, I'll never go back to feeling like I'm tied into that system again, that my father-in-law and so many millions of Americans have felt their entire lives. And I thought, if the economy is crashing and 401ks have crashed, my solar panels are still producing electricity, still providing for me and my family and my son at the time. I only had one of my 5 kids at the time. And no matter how much electricity costs, it doesn't matter to me. I'm still getting my return on investment from my panels. And what government official is going to come to my house and take my panels off my roof? That's the only way my return on investment's going away. That, or the sun doesn't shine.
Right.
And if the sun stops shining, none of our problems matter at that point, because we're all dead. The planet ceases to exist at that point, right?
We're not going to grow anything.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to grow anything anyways, right? And so, I could have went out and bought gold and silver, but that's not going to produce electricity. I'm not going to be able to eat it, right? Like I was thinking practically, how am I going to live, right? And and so I thought when people started calling me and asking me about putting solar on their house, I thought this is an actual viable thing that I could do to help middle class Americans stick it to the man,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm still, even though we have 300 employees and I'm this, CEO of this big company, I feel like I'm still helping stick it to the man and I love it, right? And even though we have all these friends running around thinking that like that we're some big company doing all these great things, at the end of the day, the thing that excites me and drives me every day and gets me up and makes me grind is knowing that we're sticking it to the man, Alan.
Well, you look at, even if we stopped right now, 8,000 plus installs,
Oh,
and
hundreds of millions of
and
dollars in
and
utility
yeah,
savings. Hundreds.
every month, we're sticking it to them
Oh, I
big
know.
time, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let alone the projects we've had, like the school and the church down in Joplin, and
Yeah. Eden Village.
yeah, the things that really help people and help nonprofits, but
Yeah.
going to places like the big install we just did in Texas
Yeah.
for the embassy suites.
Yeah.
They
The
see
canopy
that
over the
putting the
parking lot.
canopy so their customers can have covered parking.
Yeah.
And why they do it? Because it pays for itself.
Yeah.
And you look at these panels, so 25, 30-year guarantee, they're going to last a long time beyond that.
Yeah.
I was watching a video the other day of 4 panels on a house that they built in 1938 that are still producing. It's only like 4 watts a panel, but
That's crazy.
but ones that I had put the glass on back in the 80s. Those solar fields that on some of those are still operating. So these are not things that it's going to stop working when the warranty runs out. There's no moving parts to it.
They have
So,
solar panels older than me, Alan.
mm-hmm.
Does that make you feel old?
Thank you. Yeah. I felt it before then, but yeah, that just kind of puts it out there a little bit more now.
So, do you have any questions for me? Every podcast I do, I let my guest always ask me any questions. It can be personal, business. You can make it up on the spot.
I had when Debbie and I were married, she had 2 girls. I had a girl and a boy, so we had 4, but they were junior high age when we combined our families. And I saw, time management was a big thing, but with the way the company's grown, how do you keep a family schedule? Do you keep separate calendars for the kids and for you? And does Rachel do that, or do you do you get handed a schedule every day?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, because tonight we start soccer practice for my oldest daughter Delaney and my youngest son Indy, and there's only 2 out of the 5 are doing sports this year, so that makes it a little easier. And with all 5 of them now being homeschooled since COVID, that makes it a little bit easier too. So luckily I've gotten better at remembering their events. But what I usually do is Rachel has access to my work Outlook calendar, so she can add events on there and I see them. But I absolutely live and die by my work Outlook calendar. And between Tammy, my executive assistant, and Jock doing a lot of marketing stuff with me, and then all my outside contacts. If somebody's going to have a meeting or do something with me, just like you know this because we work so long together, if it's on my calendar, there's a pretty high chance I'm going to be attending the meeting or doing something if it's something that I really want to do. And if it's not on my calendar, there's probably like 100% chance that I'm not even going to know that meeting exists unless it's really, really important to me and it's something I can remember in my brain because I just live or die by my calendar on my phone.
So let me ask you this, Dan, because of people out there, there's lots of self-employed people that are growing their companies. Do you use Outlook calendar, or do you use a special
Yeah,
app? Or...
well, I'm forced to use Outlook calendar because we use Outlook. We use the Outlook 365 for everything we do at our company. But I used to use Gmail, and I prefer the Gmail, Google suite. But since we converted over, I'm forced to use I'm forced to use the Outlook Microsoft 365 platform for the last few years. So yeah, I use that calendar for virtually everything. But
I call mine my electric mommy.
yeah, for sure. But once once I leave work, I try to you know for the last, I don't know, probably up until COVID, a little after COVID, because COVID was pretty wild and scary for most companies, including ours, for a while. I was working all the way up through COVID. I was working kind of night and day, never really took time off. And since then, I try to like kind of leave work behind. So usually by 5, 6 o'clock at night, I'm kind of stop paying attention to my phone unless it's a 911 type thing. Try not to respond to emails unless it's a 911 type thing, and just try to focus on the family and what I can focus on with the family and engage in their sports, their activities, their things, and then really try to disengage on Saturday and Sunday, because I used to just, I remember the first 5 years of the company, I didn't even take a vacation. I'd even take a weekend off. It was 7 days a week, 12-hour days for 5 years. I remember taking my first vacation and just absolutely just being tore up that I was abandoning the company and not supporting it. And obviously that was very stressful on the family to act like that, growing the business. But now we can kind of reap those rewards by having 300 employees and letting them me letting go of the rope and letting other people kind of take on some of those tasks and daily duties.
So again, growing companies, people wondering, we've expanded into Kansas City, St. Louis, looking into more expansions. When you look at moving to a new location like that, what's been the hardest part for you? Is it the real estate? Is it the training and the people? Is it the
people? Yeah. I mean, finding the location, finding the buildings, finding the trucks, the equipment, all that stuff super easy. And we've did that multiple times, but it's always the people. I think the people is always what's made Sun Solar successful in areas, and it's what's held us back in areas. I mean, we were in Kansas City for 3 years, and then we ended up closing down shop right as COVID hit. And we could have kept it open and running, but we just didn't have the right management staff in place, didn't have the right structure in place. And now we've restarted Kansas City over the last year. Started St. Louis back up, went into Illinois. We've been wildly successful in Illinois. Looking at getting more into, obviously, Illinois as we continue to grow into that state. And it's obviously about, timing is a big thing too when you go into a certain area. But it's always about growing around the right people and either having the right people in that place or moving the right people in those places. And obviously, you look back over the last 18 to 24 months, our growth from 115 employees to 300 plus employees now, it's been right people, right seats, and just getting the right people in the company at the right time. And then everybody kind of rowing the boat in the same direction. And so same thing can be said for new locations. Is you get the right person in the new location that can really manage, train, hire, recruit, all those things at the right time. You can take a new location that's generating a couple $100,000 in revenue per month and struggling to a few $1,000,000 in revenue per month in 6 months, or you can keep it at a few $100,000 a month for a few years and just keep beating your head against the wall and trying to figure out what's going wrong, And when you're 3 hours away, it doesn't sound like a lot, but your senior management staff can't go live there and breathe there every day to figure out what's going on. So if you have the wrong people in place, it can really hold you back for a long period of time.
And video calls can only do so much.
Yeah. I can't really tell you about the pulse of what's going on there on a daily basis. So thanks, everybody, for tuning into the podcast. We're going to keep continuing to do these, so make sure you check in about every week. Had Alan as a great guest today. We're going to have a new exciting guest next week. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah, it's great having you.